All right. Good evening, everyone. Can you all hear me? It has been a day, hasn't it? It's been quite the day. Donald Trump's hairdo was found guilty of 34 counts of felony charges, according to MAGA. He's completely innocent. Uh, our little corner of the internet's been imploding over Brianna Wu's lies. And it turns out that Israel has been trying to bribe the ICC and intimidate them. So it's been quite a banner week for the wicked and the cruel. But let's start with Donald Trump, because this is going to be relatively important to our viewership, being mostly from America and Canada. For what Donald Trump was found guilty on 34 counts of falsifying business records in his hush money trial concerning Stormy Daniels, paying off Stormy Daniels to talk about his penis before the 2016 election, which failed because she got to talk about his penis anyway because it leaked. This trial had been going on for a couple weeks. There was a lot of it was covered pretty breathlessly by the media, and this feels all at once big and not big, right? Because obviously this is the first time a former president has tried for crimes committed well before they took office. It's also the clearest cut case. It's where a position of presidential immunity couldn't even be asserted. Each of these sentences, I think the sentences could clear up to a max of 4 years in prison. I highly doubt Donald Trump will see the inside of a prison. Very unlikely. The Secret Service would throw a fit for the first part. The second thing to point out is that everyone is talking today about what kind of effect this is going to have on the election. And I'll be perfectly frank with you. It's too early to tell. It's not going to move the diehard Trump supporters. It's not going to change the minds of the Democrats who are going to vote against Trump today. But American elections aren't decided by the people who swear allegiance to either party. They're decided by the vast majority of people who don't, and who make up their minds sometimes even as they're walking into the ballot box. So it's really hard to say what effect this is actually going to have on the you can do polling and you can do all those things, but it's going to be a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks before anything becomes apparent at all. And honestly, it'll probably depend even more on this July 11th sentencing date, whether that happens. So I think it's important. I think it's important because a lot of people pointed out, even before Trump was elected, how corrupt he was, how he was in the pocket of the mafia, operating as a New York City real estate mogul, how he didn't pay workers, how he did all these horrible things to people. And it's 6 years too late, to be sure. 7, 8 years even close to now, but it's something. Hard to hold the rich accountable. They get to get out of things, and the fact that this has happened is no small thing. Is it great? Is it perfect? No, but it's the best attempt we're going to get. Because if you've been paying attention to other cases, Trump's appointee, Judge Cannon, pretty much killed the classified documents case, which is another slam dunk that he should be convicted on pretty easily. And the Supreme Court is even trying to decide whether or not they're going to take the doctrine of sovereign immunity to absurd heights. There's a lot up in the air right now, right? So what I would say, before we get too much into our doomerisms or too much into our celebratory phase here, we don't know what's going to happen yet. but at least Donnie here looks sad. And you get to start calling Donald Trump, convicted felon Donald Trump, to kick off every sentence. So yeah, Trump will be sentenced on July 11th. He will remain out of prison, which is what's the word? Unusual. We're giving Trump a lot of leeway here. Dude has a plane; he can fly out of the country. Yes, that's important to point out. Nothing in the Constitution bars a convicted criminal from running for the nation's highest office. Fun fact: one of the more prolific existing socialist candidates for the United States, a man by the name of Eugene Victor Debs, lawyer, labor organizer, he ran for president unsuccessfully from prison. Got a good number of votes for it too. But other than that, this is a pretty unique situation for American politics. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But let's not belabor this particular point. Let's go on to this. This is off of the Guardian. So if you follow two guys on Twitter, you'll know that I talk with some policy heads about the Middle East pretty often, and I made a very off kilter remark. One of them, a couple days before this came out, days old at this. I made a remark about the ICC pressing or asking for arrest warrants to be in the case of Netanyahu and the other Israeli, who's is unique because you just know that Mossad was talking about offing the prosecutor. And lo and behold, this comes out the next day. So this is a pretty egregious situation, and we're going to go through it at some length. When the chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court announced he was seeking arrest warrants against Israeli and Hamas leaders, he issued a cryptic warning. I insist that all attempts to impede, intimidate, or improperly influence officials of this court must cease immediately. Karim Khan did not offer specific details of the, but he noted a clause in the court's foundational such criminal offense. If the conduct continued, he added, my office will not hesitate. The prosecutor did not say who had attempted to intervene in the administration of justice or exactly how they had done so. Now an investigation by The Guardian and Israeli-based magazine Plus 972, well, you will note, has done some fantastic reporting on the use of AI by the Israeli military, their war crimes. And Local Call can reveal how Israel has run almost a decades-long secret war against the court. The country deployed its intelligence agencies to surveil, pressure, smear, and allegedly threaten senior ICC staff in efforts to derail the court's inquiry. Israeli intelligence captured communications of numerous ICC officials, including Khan and his predecessor as prosecutor, Fatou Bensouda, intercepting phone calls, messages, emails, and documents. Surveillance was ongoing in recent months, providing Israel's Prime Minister, Netanyahu, with advanced knowledge of the prosecutor's intentions. Recent intercepted communication suggests Khan wanted to issue arrest warrants against Israelis, was under tremendous pressure from the United States, according to a source from military content. This is Khan, right? Predecessor, who as chief prosecutor opened the ICC investigation in 2021, paving the way for last week's announcement, was also spied on and threatened. Netanyahu has taken a close interest in the intelligence operation. It was described by one intelligence source as being obsessed with the steps about the case. Boy, sounds a little bit like Trump. Overseen by his national security advisors, military intelligence directorate, the efforts involved the diplomatic spy agency, the Shin Bet, as well as the military intelligence directorate, Amman, and the cyber intelligence division, Unit 8200. Intelligence gleaned from intercepts was, sources said, disseminated to government ministries of justice, foreign affairs, and strategic affairs. The covert operation against Bensouda was revealed on Tuesday by The Guardian, was run by Netanyahu's close personal ally, Yossi Cohen, who was at the time the director of Israel's foreign intelligence agency, the Mossad. At one stage, the spy chief even enlisted the help of then-president of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Joseph Kabila himself, a horrible person. Details of Israel's 9-year campaign to thwart the ICC's inquiry have been uncovered by The Guardian, the Israeli-Palestinian publication Plus 972, and local Karl, a Hebrew-language outlet. The joint investigation draws on interviews of more than 24 current and former Israeli intelligence officers and government officials, senior ICC figures, diplomats and lawyers familiar with the case, and Israel's efforts to undermine it. Contacted by The Guardian, a spokesperson for the ICC said it was aware of proactive intelligence gathering activities undertaken by a number of national agencies hostile towards the court. They said the ICC was continually implementing countermeasures against such activity, and that none of the recent attacks against it by national intelligence agencies had penetrated the Corps' core evidence holdings, which had remained secure. So this is, on its face, pretty remarkable, really, when you get down to it. For all that the Israelis and the United States just spent a whole week saying that the ICC is a toothless organization which matters not at all, they certainly seem interested in trying to stop it from doing what it's going to do. A spokesperson for Israel's Prime Minister's office said the questions forwarded to us are replete with many false and unfounded allegations meant to hurt the state of Israel. Of course they were. A military spokesperson added the IDF did not and does not conduct surveillance or other intelligence operations against the ICC. Since it was established in 2002, the ICC has served as a permanent court of last resort for the prosecution of individuals accused of some of the world's worst atrocities. It has charged the former Sudanese president Omar al-Bashir and the late Libyan president Muammar Gaddafi, and most recently the Russian president Vladimir Putin. Khan's decision to seek arrest warrants against Netanyahu and his defense minister Yoav Gallant, along with Hamas leaders implicated in the October 7th attacks, marks the first time the ICC prosecutor sought arrest warrants against the leader of a close Western ally. The allegation of war crimes and crimes against humanity that Khan has leveled against Netanyahu and Gallant all relate to Israel's 8-month war in Gaza, which according to the territory's health authority has killed more than 35,000 people. That might actually be higher now. But the ICC case has been a decade in the making, inching forward amid rising alarm among Israeli officials of the possibility of arrest warrants, which would prevent those accused from traveling to any of the court's 124 member states for fear of arrest. It is this specter of prosecutions in The Hague that one former Israeli intelligence official said had led to the entire military and political establishment to regard the counteroffensive against the ICC as a war that had to be waged. Hey, Tikas. And one that Israel needed to be defended against. It was described in military terms. The war commenced in January 2015, when it was confirmed that Palestine would join the court. This is, incidentally, why they can issue these requests for arrest warrants at all, because Gaza and Palestine are signatories to the treaty or the Rome Statutes. The session was condemned by Israeli officials as a form of diplomatic terrorism, because everything is terrorism to Israel. One former defense official familiar with the Israeli counter-ICC effort said, joining the court had been perceived as a crossing of a red line, and perhaps the most aggressive diplomatic move taken by the Palestinian Authority, which governs the West Bank. To be recognized as a state in the UN is nice, they added, but the ICC is a mechanism with teeth. In fairness, the UN can, if the United States and the other four don't disagree, they can call for troops. It's just not likely to happen. For Bensouda, a respected Gambian lawyer who was elected to the ICC's chief prosecutor in 2012, the accession of the Palestine to the court brought with it a momentous decision. Under the Rome Statute, the treaty that established the court, the ICC can exercise its jurisdiction only over crimes within member states or by nationals of those states. Israel, like the US, Russia, and China, is not a member. After Palestine's acceptance as an ICC member, any alleged war crimes committed by those of any nationality in occupied Palestinian territories now fell under the ICC's jurisdiction. On 16 January 2015, within weeks of Palestine joining, they opened a preliminary examination in what the legalese of the court was called the situation in Palestine. The following month, two men who had managed to obtain the prosecutor's private address turned up at her home in The Hague. The sources familiar with the incident said the men declined to identify themselves when they arrived, but said they wanted to hand-deliver a letter on behalf of an unknown German woman who wanted to thank her. The envelope contained hundreds of dollars of cash and a note with an Israeli phone number. Sources with knowledge of the ICC review into the incident said that while it was not possible to identify the men or fully establish their motives, it was concluded Israel was likely signaling to the prosecutor that it knew where she lived. The ICC reported the incident to Dutch authorities and put in place additional security, installing CCTV cameras at her home. The preliminary inquiry into the Palestinian territory was one of several fact-finding exercises the court was undertaking at the time as a precursor to a possible full investigation. The current caseload at that time included 9 investigations, one into the DRC, Kenya, and the Darfur region of Sudan. Officials in the prosecutor's office believed the court was vulnerable to espionage activity and introduced counter-surveillance measures to protect their confidential inquiry. In Israel, the Prime Minister's National Security Council had mobilized a response involving its intelligence agency. Netanyahu and some of the generals and spy chiefs who authorized the operation had a personal stake in its outcome. Unlike the International Court of Justice, a UN body that deals with the legal responsibility of nation-states, the ICC is a criminal court that prosecutes individuals, targeting those deemed most responsible for atrocities. Multiple Israeli sources said the leadership of the IDF wanted military intelligence to join the effort, which was being led by other spy agencies to ensure senior officers could be protected from charges. We were told that senior officers are afraid to accept positions in the West Bank because they are afraid of being prosecuted in The Hague, one source recalled. Well, it's easy. I have a really good solution to that. Stop committing war crimes. Two intelligence officials involved in procuring intercepts about the ICC said the Prime Minister's office took a keen interest in their work. Netanyahu's office, one said, would send areas of interest and instructions in relation to monitoring of court officials. Another described the Prime Minister as obsessed with the intercept, shedding light on the activities of the ICC. 5 sources familiar with Israeli intelligence activities said it routinely spied on phone calls made by Bensouda and her staff with Palestinians. Blocked by Israel from accessing Gaza and the West Bank, including East Jerusalem, the ICC was forced to conduct much of its research by telephone, which made it more susceptible to surveillance. Thanks to their comprehensive access to Palestinian telecoms infrastructure, sources said, the intelligence operatives could capture calls without installing spyware on the ICC officials' devices. They spoke to any person in West Bank or Gaza, then that phone call would enter the intercept system. Another thing, there was no hesitation internally over spying on the prosecutor. Adding, with Bensouda, she's black and African, so who cares? Aren't they just charming people? The surveillance system did not capture all calls between and anyone outside Palestine. However, multiple sources said the system required the active selection of overseas phone numbers of ICC officials whose calls Israeli intelligence agencies decided to listen to. So they had to know these things and look for them. This wasn't incidental. According to one Israeli source, a large whiteboard in the Israeli intelligence department contained the names of about 60 people under surveillance, half of them Palestinian, half from other countries, including UN and ICC personnel. Hague, Bensouda, and her staff alerted were alerted by security advisors via diplomatic channels that Israel is monitoring the work of former ICC. We were made aware they were trying to get information on where we were with the Officials also became aware of specific threats against prominent Palestinian NGO Al-Haq, which was one of the several Palestinian human rights groups frequently submitting information to the ICC, often in lengthy documents detailing incidents it wanted the prosecutors to consider. Palestinian Authority submitted similar dossiers. Such documents often contain sensitive information such as testimony of potential witnesses. Al-Haq's submissions also understood to have linked specific allegations of Rome Statute crimes to senior officials, including chiefs of the IDF, directors of Shin Bet, Israeli Special Forces, and defense ministers such as Benny Gantz. Years later, after the ICC had opened a full investigation into Palestine, Gantz described Al-Haq and 5 other Palestinian rights groups as terrorist organizations. This is, incidentally, why I don't place any stock at all at them complaining about UNRWA being a terrorist organization, because this is what they always say, and they always provide no proof. A label that was rejected by multiple European states and later found by the CAA to be unsupported by evidence. But they can say it, and you'll never hear about that last part until afterward. The organization said the designations were targeted assaults against those most actively engaging with it. According to multiple current and former intelligence officials, military cyber offensive teams, the employees of Palestinian NGOs and the Palestinian Authority who were engaging with the 2 intelligence sources described Israeli operatives hacked into the emails of Al-Haq and other groups communicating with them. One of the sources said Shin Bet even installed Pegasus spyware by the private sector on the phones of multiple Palestinian NGO employees, as well as 2 senior Palestinian Authority officials. Keeping tabs on the Palestinian missions, the ICC's inquiry was viewed as part of Shin Bet's mandate, but some army officials were concerned that spying on a foreign civilian entity crossed a line. It has little to do. It has nothing to do with Hamas. It has nothing to do with stability in the West Bank, one military said of the ICC. Another added, we use our resources to spy on Fatah Bensouda, something legitimate to do as military intelligence. And lo and behold, like, it's not like they had anything to do, like watching out for Hamas attacks. Legitimate or otherwise, the surveillance of the ICC and Palestinians, making the case for prosecution against Israelis, provided the Israeli government with an advantage in back channel to prosecute it. Israel's meetings with the ICC were highly sensitive. Made public, they had the potential to undermine the government's position that it did not recognize the court's authority, although it seems like they pretty roundaboutly have recognized it. According to the 6 sources familiar with the meetings, they consist of a delegation of top government and diplomats who traveled to The Hague. 2 of the sources said the meeting was authorized by net. The Israeli delegation was drawn from the Justice Ministry, Foreign Ministry. Meetings took place between 2017 and were led by the prominent Israeli lawyer, Karl Becker. Beginning, it was tense, recalled the former ICC. Get into the details of incidents. Say, you're receiving allegations about these attacks, these killings. Provide us with a person with direct knowledge, preparation for that officials in the Justice Ministry before the delegations arrived in the lawyers who dealt with the issue at the Justice Ministry, big thirst for intelligence. For the Israelis, the back-channel meetings, while sensitive, presented a unique opportunity to directly present legal arguments challenging the prosecutor's jurisdiction over the Palestinian territories. They also sought to convince the prosecutor that despite the Israeli military's highly questionable record of investigating wrongdoing in its ranks, it had robust procedures for holding its armed forces to account. Yes, they close their eyes and count to 10 and wait for it to be done. This was a critical issue for Israel. A core ICC principle known as complementary prevents the prosecutor from investigating or trying individuals if they are the subject of credible state-level investigations or criminal proceedings. Israeli surveillance operatives were asked to find out which specific incidents might form part of a future ICC prosecution, in order to enable Israeli investigative bodies to open investigations retroactively in some cases. If materials were transferred to the ICC, we had to understand exactly what they were to ensure the IDF investigated them independently and sufficiently so that they could claim complementary, one source explained. Israel's back-channel meetings with the ICC ended in December 2019 when Besoda announced the end of her preliminary examination and believed there was a reasonable basis to conclude that Israel and Palestinian armed groups had both committed war crimes in the occupied territories. It was a significant setback for Israel's leaders, although it could have been worse, in a move that some in the government regarded as a partial vindication of Israel's lobbying efforts, Besoda stopped short of launching a formal investigation. Instead, she announced she would ask a panel of ICC judges to rule on the contentious question of the court's jurisdiction over Palestinian territories due to unique and highly contested legal and factual issues. Yet she made it clear that she was minded to open a full investigation if the judges gave her a green light. It was against this backdrop that Israel ramped up its campaign against the ICC and turned to its top spy chief to turn up the heat on Besoda personally. This is where it gets a little uncomfortable, gang. Between late 2019 and early 2021, as the pre-trial chamber considered the jurisdictional questions, the director of Mossad, Yossi Cohen, intensified his efforts to persuade Besoda not to proceed with the investigation. His contacts with Besoda, which were described by The Guardian, 4 people familiar with the prosecutor's contemporaneous accounts of the interactions, as well as sources briefed on the Mossad operation, had begun several years earlier. In one of the earliest encounters, Cohen surprised Besoda when he made an unexpected appearance at an official meeting the prosecutor was holding with the then DRC president, Joseph Illiberal, in a New York hotel suite. Sources familiar with the meeting said that after Besoda's staff were asked to leave the room, the director of Mossad appeared from behind a door in a carefully choreographed ambush. After the incident in New York, Cohen persisted in contacting the prosecutor, turning up unannounced while subjecting her to unwanted calls. Well, that's never not creepy. While initially amicable, the sources said, Cohen's behavior became increasingly threatening and intimidating. A close ally of Netanyahu at the time, Cohen was a veteran Mossad spy master and had gained a reputation within the service as a skilled recruiter of agents with experience cultivating high-level officials in foreign governments. Accounts of his secret meetings with Besoda paint a picture in which he sought to build a relationship with the prosecutor. Basically, he was attempting to turn her or get information on her so that he could blackmail, as he attempted to dissuade her from pursuing an investigation that, if it went ahead, could embroil senior Israeli officials. 3 sources briefed on Cohen's activities said they understood the spy chief had tried to recruit Besoda into complying with Israel's demands during the period which she was waiting for a ruling from the pre-trial chamber. They said he became more threatening after he began to realize the prosecutor would not be persuaded to abandon the investigation. At one stage, Cohen is said to have made comments about Besoda's security and thinly veiled threats, but the consequences for her career if she proceeded. Contacted by The Guardian, Cohen and Kabbalah did not respond to requests for comment. Besoda declined to comment. When she was prosecutor, she formally disclosed her encounters with Cohen to a small group at the ICC with the intention of putting on record her belief that she had been personally threatened, sources familiar with the disclosures said. This was not the only way that Israel sought to place pressure on the prosecutor. At the same time, the ICC officials discovered details of what sources described as a diplomatic smear campaign, relating in part to a close family member. According to multiple sources, Mossad had retained a cache of material, including transcripts of a sting operation against her husband. The origin of the material and whether it was genuine remain unclear. However, elements of the information were circulated by Israel among the Western diplomatic sources. A failed attempt to discredit the chief prosecutor. A person briefed from the campaign said it gained little traction among diplomats and amounted to a desperate attempt to besmirch Minnesota's reputation. In March 2020, 3 months after Minnesota referred the Palestine case to the pretrial chamber, an Israeli government delegation reportedly held discussions in Washington with senior U.S. officials about a joint Israeli-American struggle against the ICC. Really laying it on thick there. One Israeli intelligence official said they regarded Donald Trump's administration as more cooperative than that of his Democratic predecessor. They felt sufficiently comfortable to ask for information from the U.S. about Minnesota, a request that would have been impossible during Barack Obama's tenure. Days before their meeting in Washington, Minnesota received authorization from the ICC judges to pursue a separate investigation of war crimes committed in Afghanistan by both the Taliban, by both Afghan and U.S. military personnel. That's a weird sentence. Fearing U.S. armed forces would be prosecuted, the Trump administration was engaged in its own aggressive campaign against the ICC, culminating in the summer of 2020 with the imposition of U.S. economic sanctions on Minnesota and one of her top officials. Among ICC officials, U.S.-led financial and visa restrictions on the court personnel were believed to relate as much to the Palestinian investigation as to the Afghanistan case. 2 former ICC officials said senior Israeli officials had expressly indicated to them that Israel and the U.S. were working together. At a press conference in June of that year, senior Trump administration figures signaled their intention to impose sanctions on ICC officials, announcing they had received unspecified information about financial corruption and malfeasance at the highest levels of the Office of the Prosecutor. Funny, they keep saying that. But the only one convicted is Trump. As well as referring to the Afghanistan case, Mike Pompeo, Trump's Secretary of State, linked U.S. measures to Palestine's case. It is clear the ICC is only putting Israel in its crosshairs for nakedly political purposes, he said. Months later, Pompeo accused Minnesota of having engaged in corrupt acts for her personal benefit. The U.S. has never publicly provided any information to substantiate that charge, and Joe Biden lifted the sanctions months after he entered the White House. But at the time, Minnesota faced increasing pressure from an apparently concerted effort behind the scenes by the 2 powerful allies. As Gambian national, she did not enjoy the political protection that other ICC colleagues from Western countries had by virtue of their citizenship. A former ICC source said this left her vulnerable and isolated. Cohen's activities, sources said, were particularly concerning for the prosecutor, and they led to fear for her personal safety. When the pretrial chamber confirmed the ICC had jurisdiction in Palestine in February, some at the ICC even believed Minnesota should leave her final decision open to her successor. On March 3rd, over months before the end of her 9-year term, Minnesota announced a full investigation into the Palestinian case, setting in motion a process to complete the criminal charges, though she cautioned that the next phase could take time. Good on her. Like, imagine having the director of Mossad threatening your life on a regular basis, and you're like, fuck it, we're gonna go anyway. Good on her. Any investigation undertaken by the office will be conducted independently, impartially, and objectively without fear or favor, she said. To both Palestinian and Israeli victims and affected communities, we urge patience. When Khan took the helm of the ICC prosecutor's office in June 2021, he inherited an investigation that lies in the San Andreas fault of international politics and strategic interests. As he took office, other investigations, including in the events of the Philippines, DRC, Afghanistan, and Bangladesh, competed for his attention. And in March 2022, days after Russia launched its invasion of Ukraine, he opened a high-profile investigation into alleged Russian war crimes. Initially, the politically sensitive Palestine inquiry was not treated as a priority by the British prosecutor's team. Sources familiar with the case said, it was in effect on the shelf, but Khan's office disputes this and says it established a dedicated investigative team to take the inquiry forward. In Israel, the government's top lawyers regarded Khan, who had previously defended warlords such as Liberian President Charles Taylor, as a more cautious prosecutor than Minnesota. One senior Israeli official said there was a lot of respect for Khan, unlike his predecessor. His appointment to the court was viewed as a reason for optimism. But they added that the 7th October attack changed that reality. A Hamas assault on southern Israel, in which Palestinian militants killed nearly 1,200 Israelis and kidnapped about 250 people, clearly involved brazen war crimes. So, too, in the view of many legal experts, had Israel's subsequent onslaught on Gaza, which is estimated to have killed more than 3,500 people and brought the territory to the brink of famine through Israel's obstruction of humanitarian aid. By the end of the third week of Israel's bombardment on Gaza, Khan was on the ground at the Rafah border crossing. Subsequently made visits to the West Bank and southern Israel, where he was invited to meet the survivors of the 7 October attack and relatives of the people who had been killed. In February 2024, Khan issued a strongly worded statement that Netanyahu's legal advisors interpreted it as an anonymous sign. In a post on X, Twitter, he in effect warned Israel against launching an assault on Rafah, Gaza's southernmost city, where more than 1 million displaced people were sheltering. I am deeply concerned by the reported bombardment and potential ground incursion by Israeli forces in Rafah. Those who do not comply with the law should not complain later when my offices take action. The comment stirred alarm within the Israeli government, and as they appeared to deviate from his previous statements about the war, which officials had viewed as reassuringly cautious, this tweet surprised us, a senior official said. Concerns in Israel over Khan's intentions escalated last month when the government was briefed the media that it believed the prosecutor was contemplating arrest warrants against Netanyahu and other senior officials, such as Yoav Gallant. Well, he was doing more than contemplating it. Israeli intelligence had intercepted emails, attachments, and text messages from Khan and other officials in his office. The ICC climbed the ladder of priorities for Israeli intelligence, one source said. It was intercepted via intercepted communications that Israel established that Khan was at one stage considering entering Gaza through Egypt and wanted urgent assistance to do so without Israel's permission. Another Israeli assessment circulated widely in the intelligence community drew on surveillance call between two Palestinian politicians. One of them said Khan indicated that a request for arrest warrants of Israeli leaders could be imminent and warned he was under tremendous pressure from the United States. It was against this backdrop that Netanyahu made a series of public statements warning that a request for arrest warrants could be imminent. He called on leaders of the free world to stand firmly against the ICC and use all means at their disposal to stop this dangerous move. He added, branding Israel's leaders and soldiers as war criminals will pour jet fuel on the fires of anti-Semitism. No, Israel's been doing a good job of that all by themselves. In Washington, a group of senior U.S. Republican senators had already sent a threatening letter to Khan with a clear warning. Target Israel and we will target you. The ICC, meanwhile, had strengthened its security with regular sweeps of the prosecutor's office, using security checks on devices, phone-free areas, weekly threat assessment, and the introduction of specialist equipment. An ICC spokesperson said Khan's office had been subjected to several forms of threats and communications that could be viewed as attempts to unduly influence its activities. Khan had recently disclosed in an interview with CNN that some elected leaders had been very blunt with him as he had prepared to issue arrest warrants. The court is built for Africa and thugs like Putin, is what a senior leader told me. That's not racist at all. Clearly. Despite the pressure, Khan, like his predecessor in the prosecutor's office, chose to press ahead. Last week, Khan announced he was seeking arrest warrants for Netanyahu and Gallant, along with 3 Hamas leaders for war crimes and crimes against humanity. He said that Israel's prime minister and defense minister stood accused of responsibility for extermination, starvation, and denial of humanitarian relief supplies and deliberately targeting of civilians. Standing at the lectern with 2 of his top prosecutors, one American and one British at his side, Khan said that he repeatedly told Israel to take urgent action to comply with humanitarian law. I specifically underlined the starvation as a method of war and denial of humanitarian relief constitute Rome Statute offenses. I could not have been clearer, he said. As I also repeatedly underlined in my public statements, those who do not comply with the law should not complain later when my office takes actions. That day has come. And that is the conclusion of this article. This is, I think, indicative of so much of the problem of Israel that they act with impunity and then they get upset when people try to hold them to account. It's abundantly clear that Israel has committed war crimes, and it's abundantly clear that they have committed crimes against humanity. along with Hamas, and that both sides should be held to account. They should be tried. They should be made to stop these things. And I think it's worth applauding both Khan's predecessor, Ben Sula, and him for proceeding with it. Mossad is not a joke. Mossad will kill you, and they will make it hurt. They are a horrifically monstrous agency. Shin Bet is no joke either. These are Israel's trained killers. The book Sunday put me on to Rise and Kill First talks about the history formation of Mossad, and it is a violent. So, is it a lot? But it's way more than we've ever seen. And I think the courage that these individuals have shown proceeding through this should be applauded. We have a couple more things for you tonight, including a follow-up to this. But I'm going to take a short break, address a couple things, and we will get right back. All right. Right, we are. Let me know if you can still hear me. Everything working after I left, and I want to follow this up. Uh, let's talk a little bit about this before we go into it. This is Haaretz. It's a Israeli newspaper. Here's the thing. There is a very reoccurring line that you hear a lot of people saying. Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East. That's just bullshit. Israel's not really a democracy. Israel effectively is one party rule system. The only party that has made any substantial gains are parties that are either offshoots of Likud or Likud itself in the last, decades. In it, they don't have freedom of the press. They're a democracy in the exact same way that Russia is a democracy. They hold elections. They're largely foregone conclusions. And even the relatively weak protections that you have in Israel against political public malfeasance are incredibly under attack. For example, a few months ago, about a year ago now, actually, you had these massive demonstrations in Israel over Netanyahu's plan to basically turn the court into a puppet of his rule that would prevent him from being charged and held accountable for his corruption. But it goes deeper than that. There's reports coming out even this week of the transportation minister prioritizing whether or not a town gets its roads fixed by whether or not they're useful to Likud. This is a deeply corrupt society. Like, the only people who are surprised that Israel is the way it is, as Israelis, it seems like this is not a real democracy, and this is very much gonna play into this story. This story is from an Israeli news source, and it's amazing that they published it. Israel, when it was still the British mandate of Palestine, the Palestinians had a law that allowed them to issue cert or the British had a law that allowed them to issue cert for any news sources. And they used this to suppress Palestinian news outlets. The Israelis kept this law. So, for example, when you see them kicking out Al Jazeera and ask or the AP and ask how they can do this, it's fairly simple. They don't have a free press. And that's something to keep in mind as we move through here. How Israeli security nixed Haaretz's report into the alleged Mossad extortion of the International Court prosecutor. And we're gonna move through this and get to the good stuff that everyone wants about Brianna Wu, because that's always fun. The investigation this week by Britain's Guardian newspaper revealed an alleged extortion operation led by then Mossad head Yossi Cohen against then International Criminal Court prosecutor Fatwa Bensouda. About 2 years ago, Haaretz was about to reveal the affair, but an Israeli security official blocked the publication. Now the affair has been exposed at a difficult time. Oh, you're going to make me register for this? One second. Don't
These
play.
weren't real death threats. She's
I hope you all appreciate how much. I hope you all appreciate how much I do for you. I'm signing up for more junk mail just to be able to cover this for you. Oh, we just gotta wait for this thing to go through. This is why we should plan ahead. There we go. Hooray. Thank you for bearing with us. A difficult time for Israel. The timing couldn't be worse. It is occurring in the midst of a political tsunami, and a week after Karim Khan, the ICC prosecutor who replaced Ben Soto, sought arrest warrants against Prime Minister Netanyahu and Defense Minister Gallant, along with the leaders of Hamas, including Sinwar. One of the investigation's key findings would have been known to the readers of Haaretz a long time ago if Israel was the democratic state it claims to be. Damn, it's not just me saying it. The first part of the two-part expose published by the British newspaper, which was conducted in cooperation with journalists from the Israeli-Palestinian investigative site Plus 972 and Local Call, focuses on an operation led by Cohen to disrupt an earlier investigation against Israel at the ICC in The Hague, while attempting to threaten and intimidate its former prosecutor, Ben Soto. The second part provides evidence of an operation to hack and digitally intercept correspondence between the Palestinians who were passing information to the court and its staff. This operation was led, according to the investigation, by the Sin Bet and military intelligence. Israel officially denies the claims. The Prime Minister's office told The Guardian that the allegations were false and unfounded and meant to hurt the state of Israel. Well, that part's probably true, but being false and unfounded doesn't seem to be the case. However, Israeli officials not only confirmed the main finding in the first part of the investigation, which was learned by Haaretz back in 2022, but also that the Israeli government officials had used emergency powers to prevent the story from being published at the time. Embarrassing the Israeli government is an emergency now. According to the Guardian report, Cohen, as head of Mossad, personally contacted Mansuda several times between 2017 and 2020 and relayed threatening messages to her if she moved ahead with an investigation against Israel. It was also reported that Israel used a transcript of tapes in which Bensouda's husband, Philip, was engaged in some embarrassing conversations in order to influence her and disrupt proceedings. It is possible that this part of the expose relates to the tapes held by Israeli lawyer Mordecai, I'm going to mess this up, Savin? Hetman would be able to do this better. Who did indeed keep recordings of conversation with Philip Bensouda, as reported by The Marker in December. It is also reported that Joseph Kalaba, the former president of the DRC, was allegedly recruited as an agent for the extortion operation against the prosecutor. Among other things, the investigation said a meeting between Kabbalah and Bensouda served to create an ambush for a surprise meeting between Cohen and Bensouda, in which the threatening message was conveyed. In May 2022, Haaretz hoped to publish this exact headline, that an Israeli acted to extort the prosecutor through the Mossad as part of an operation directed and personally led by Cohen. During the course of an investigation that lasted for several months, the paper searched for an answer to the question of what the former head of Mossad was seeking in 3 visits to the Congo. in 2019, accompanied by billionaire Dan Gertler, who was involved in the dubious operation, according to sources who spoke with Heratz. Gertler even made his private plane available to fly Cohen to the African country. The answer, according to several sources, was this. Gertler and Cohen traveled to meet Kabbalah as part of an operation whose goal was to recruit or extort the ICC prosecutor as she moved against Israel. At the beginning of 2022, I attempted to contact a former prosecutor through a third party who knew her. She never responded to their approach, but days after the attempt, I can't imagine why she'd be dubious of being contacted by weird Israeli men. When I wanted to publish the story, my phone rang. At the other end of the line was the voice of a senior security official. Can you come see me tomorrow? He asked. At the entrance to the senior official's office, I was asked to deposit my mobile phone to prevent me from recording the conversation. That's actually pretty standard practice in military intelligence buildings. In the room, another senior official from a different security agency was waiting for me. The conversation began with the words, "We understand you know about the prosecutor." It was a polite conversation, a polite threat. The tone was calm, content much less so. It was explained that if I published the story, I would suffer the consequences and get to know the interrogation rooms of an Israeli security authorities from the inside. I argued against the use of security powers to prevent the publication of information whose harm is not security related, but rather reputational in nature, but to no avail. In the end, it was made clear to me that even sharing the information with my friends abroad, referring to foreign media outlets, would lead to the same results. They threatened a reporter with incarceration if it published a story that was detrimental to the Israeli government. Not a security risk, detrimental and embarrassing. This is not a democracy. These are not people who share our values. In May 2022, Heratz reported on the highlights of Cohen's Congo trips, including the entanglements of the foreign Mossad head with the authorities there and the circumstances of expulsion from the country. The fact that the trips were part of an operation to extort or recruit the prosecutor of the ICC and disrupt proceedings in The Hague were omitted. 2 years later, the government's gagging effort has turned out to be a dual folly. Instead of being exposed in an Israeli newspaper, the investigation is now appeared in a newspaper with global circulation. Instead of contending with the story during peacetime, it must deal with it in the midst of war. The timing, it appears, couldn't be worse, occurring in the midst of a political tsunami and a week after the current ICC prosecutor, Khan, who succeeded Bensouda, is seeking another order against Netanyahu and Gallant on the charges they violated the laws of war in Gaza. All that Israel needs is for the prosecutor to add offenses against the administration of justice to his list of allegations. This may very well happen. On behalf of Gertler, it was stated, what is stated in your request is not true. The report is cited as part of a campaign of persecution that you have been conducting for years against Mr. Gertler, for which lawsuits have been filed. Mr. Gertler reserves the right to file another lawsuit in this matter. Gertler, the Israeli billionaire, is suing Heratz for defamation. This is, I think, the most frank evidence we've found so far that the contention that Israel is a democracy is utterly false. This is not a liberal country. This is not a country that values freedom of the press. It does not value freedom of speech. A country that beats its own citizens if they dissent from the party line. Ask yourself, how is Israel substantially different than the people they... And ask yourself that we've been told how much better they are, how we should support them, how we should give them our money, how we should give them our weapons. And look at the facts. It's not a crime of the current administration. It is an ongoing problem for the past 80 years. We have never had a policy towards Israel that's sensible. And I understand for so many of you that this feels like an impossible situation this November. That your support of Biden is tainted by this. But Trump would be no different. Trump would be no different. Would be the same and would still be hurt. I understand how hard this is, how much this sucks, how gut wrenching it is. These are not people who are sharing our values. These are not people who we should give our support to unreservedly. They should be made to earn it. They should be made to being better than they have been. There's no other thing. This is Israel knows that they're committing crimes. They know they're doing unconscionable things, and they're willing to lie, to threaten, to cheat, to cover it up. And for the longest time, it has been almost impossible to talk about this until now, because it's been regarded as it's been painted as anti-Semitic, and I have been painted as anti-Semitic for taking this stance, but I'm going to take it anyway. I'm not going to be threatened or intimidated into stopping. It's not talking about these things because we're being lied to. It might come at a very significant cost. There is a cost to talking about crimes of Israel. There is a cost to doing this. I laugh when I look at these people on Twitter going, "Yeah, it's so cool. It's so in vogue. It's so advantageous to talk bad about Israel." And I look at all the people who I know better, who I know stay silent because they're afraid to risk their reputations, because they're afraid of retribution. This is a deeply corrupt society. They and it affects them just as much as it affects us. There are Jewish people who refuse to participate in this, who were being beaten. There are people who are standing up, who are diaspora Jews who are standing up and saying, "This doesn't represent me. This is not who I am. This is not reflective of my values." They're being shouted down. They're being threatened. They're being threatened on both sides. The biggest tragedy of all of this, on top of all the dead people, it's the biggest tragedy is that it furthers hatred of Jewish people. It furthers hatred of Palestinians, of Arabs generally, Muslims. I mean, these are people we know. Tell me that you haven't met a Jewish person who isn't incredibly dedicated to the family. They're not dedicated to their traditions and proud of their tradition. And then these people are coming along and trying to co-opt that and take that from them and place it as a mantle of a nation that has committed unspeakable crimes, not in the service of its own defense, no, but in the service of expansion, of keeping down those who whose only crime was to be not supported by the Europeans when the Zionists were. I bring this up because we're about to start talking about Brianna Wu. And if you've been paying attention to her over Twitter, she took a very hard right turn recently. She's a grifter, and she's not an honest actor at all. But the thing that these people fear, the thing that people like Wick, Brianna Wu fear, and why they don't let them talk, is the voice of the person beyond being tokenized. Easy to say, oh, anti-Semitism is horrible. But it's hard to listen to the person who says anti-Semitism is horrible and Israel's making it worse. Hard to listen to the Jewish person who says this doesn't represent me. This doesn't fit their narrative. Hard to listen to the Palestinian who says I denounce Hamas because it doesn't fit that narrative for some people on the other side. We have an obligation to take people as they are and listen to them even if they're a person who supports Israel. And guess what? Despite all of this, I think Israel should be a country. I think there should be a people free from being killed, from being attacked, and that they should, and their neighbors should be free from the same. This is beyond a tragedy. And I talk about this and I speak about this incessantly because this is being done in my name too. My government is doing it. The government that represents me, that I pay taxes to. I don't approve. And I, up until the point where they drag me away for whatever that new law that the House tried to pass is, I choose to keep speaking because it's still wrong. So we're going to move on to the last bit of this in a minute. Avery's giving me a look like he wants to go potty, so I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to leave you with some music a bit, and we'll try to do something a little lighter, because I understand that Hulaman rashed Brianna Wu in counterpoints the other night in a debate about Brianna Wu's honesty, and I think that'd be fun to see. So stick with us after this short intermission. everybody. So this is going to be, we're going to watch it via Sunday. Reactception here. Sunday reacting to Queeman versus ContraPoints and Brianna Wu. Let us go.
Stereotypes are earned, they're not given. Right. So all of these things that...
Here's the start of this. This can't be... Sunday's
picked up some dudes talking about different races' dick sizes.
Oh, we're skipping that.
Kind of agreed on.
Okay, 8 Jews, but those is either equal or not.
That was a horrible point to skip to.
All right, that out of the way. Let's see here. Do I have the Wu side of things yet? Maybe not. A little Jewish boy of ignoble character and small stature. Oh, DMs? Thanks, bud.
Queeman is quite tiny.
Oh, there we are. Brilliant. All right. The original VOD is still live. Well, there we go. Sweet. Well, they had a 10-minute prep. Why is this so off-center? Oh, it's because of the chat replay. And that needs to be in cinema mode. Boom, there we go. I remember how to do this. It's all coming back to me. They had a pre-game before Queeman went on. I don't know the topic of this. I don't know what prompted this. I know there was some Twitter back and forth or whatever. But I do know it went very, very poorly, and in the best way. And God, this filter, this is, I don't know what this is.
Brianna Wu's got to get rid of this filter. It makes her look like a wax statue. Like, holy shit. This is not a good look. And look, I'm probably not the person to talk about looks because I use a video with a picture of me that loops constantly over and over and over again. Although it is a pretty quizzical look on my part. But Jesus Christ. This it makes you look inhuman, which I suppose fits, but not the thing you probably want to portray.
Anyways, sorry, it's so distracting. Anywho, we're going to watch it because I'm exhausted from house hunting and this is easy content, so enjoy.
And I guess I'll do kind of setting the stage, so to speak, since I guess I'm hosting. So, good evening, everyone in posterity. The way that this came to be is I'll just hit it from my perspective. So I'm a fan of the commentary community and the drama community. I think that all things considered, while they often do focus on very silly things, they do have a penchant for...
Did he say in posterity? What does that mean? In posterity. You're not my father, Connor. In posterity. Anyways.
For being honest and critical and abrasive and annoying, which can be fun or funny when you don't like their targets. When you do like their targets, it can be frustrating and annoying and kind of abrasive. So I am a relatively speaking fan of Queeman's work. I'm relatively speaking a fan of Chud Logic's work, but I also find that they are...
Calling what Chud Logic does work is a stretch.
Abrasive. When it comes to Miss Brianna, you know, we're obviously friends. We work on content together, and it seemed like Mr. Queeman had a healthy chunk of criticism for me and for Miss Brianna when it came to Keffels in particular. And I think that Queeman's content is at its best when he is summarizing arguments, saying...
Oh, right. It's coming back to me. So these two had a couple of videos, I think, partially defending Keffels. Would it be worth looking at those first? They're kind of long. I'll look at them afterwards. We'll have them to hand in case referring back to them becomes important, but it's coming back to me now.
Either incorrect, and then
Edgar, thanks for the 27 sec Give him Hex Sunday.
Basically coming up with his own insights.
Give him
I think his
Sunday.
content is at its weakest when he's just calling everybody else an idiot or a spurg or a dumbass or a retard or any variation of those words or other words that he chooses to describe.
By the way, in the plural, do you call them sex? Did I just get 27 sex?
So I basically said, well, Mr. Queeman, if you take issue with what I've said or what, you know, Miss Brianna has said, then I invite you to talk it with me. I'm not personally scared of you. I'm not personally scared of the commentary community. So if you want to have a conversation, that's fine. And then Miss Brianna also jumped into the Twitter reply section and said that she is down for the conversation as well. That has brought us to today.
Yeah. Just
okay. Well.
Oh, it's oh, they cut it right to when it starts. Okay, so we will watch Queeman's end of things. Which is silent.
Like, oh, this is oh, as a matter of fact, can you send it to me real quick? The list.
Get to it.
We're trying to. Yeah.
Ah. All right.
Show what he said it showed.
What didn't it show?
And then also, what was the other thing? So he presented, I think, one of the weakest points that I would probably handle.
Isn't he moderating? Why is he offering? He doesn't know Queeman's backstage. Oh, that explains it. I was like, why are you talking like this? He's right there.
Awareness is really important when you're a streamer, by the way. It's what keeps you from putting your taxes folder up on stream.
Hammer him on again.
Oh,
The
that's
fact
funny.
that, like, he extends all of this charity to all of the people who were like threatening you during the Gamergate era, where it's like, oh, it's all jokes, it's all satire. These weren't real death threats. She's exaggerating it in order to play victim, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But then
Connor, what are you doing?
Kethel's please do cocaine with all your charity money. He took that as like a serious statement. Like Brianna Wu are saying like, yeah, hey, Kethel's, go ahead and do $100,000 worth of cocaine, as if that could possibly be a serious statement instead of a joke.
Does he not know that Queeman's there? Is this just going to be Queeman talking to a wall for 4 hours?
I think that anybody who doesn't have autism knows that's a joke. So, no, I'm good. Okay.
Oh God, I really hope Wu doesn't know Queeman's in there when she comes in. Oh, that would be so good.
Like, this is boring, but I want to find out what happens. Howdy, TK.
Too private. It's basically what we think is your weakest stuff and what we think is your strongest stuff.
But you're moderating, Connor.
Oh.
You're moderating.
We're literally about to talk about all of it right now. So yeah.
Okay. I'd love to.
Okay. Do you have
I will mention that Connor's weakest thing is being Connor. Like, yikes.
Do you have a camera that you can put on StreamYard?
No.
Okay. Do you have a Quiggler? Do you have a Queefer?
You want me to send you a Quiggler? I can send you one.
No, I'm okay. Thanks. Okay. I'm waiting for Brianna.
Come on.
How's it going?
Here we go.
That's sad. I would think you'd want to show your fucking face, but
Yeah, you think you would too, wouldn't you, Brianna?
you know.
Hey, Wu, you don't get to talk about people showing their face when your face is slathered under the world's worst filter. Madame Tussauds House of Wax should not be a filter, but there you are trying talking shit.
I mean,
Well,
when you show your actual face without 5 filters, we can talk. But
He did it.
Jesus, can we save the band for the actual shit? So, anyways, I'm going live on our end.
Great minds that are being corrupted.
And I guess I'll do kind of setting the stage, so to speak, since I guess I'm hosting. So, good evening, everyone in posterity. The way that this came to be
That doesn't
is
mean anything.
I'll
He
just
keeps saying in posterity. What is in posterity?
Does that have a meaning that I
Greetings,
don't?
everyone in posterity. Posterity is like your children. Like you preserve for posterity for future generations.
I'll just hit it from my perspective. So I'm a fan
That's gonna
of
bug
the
me all night.
commentary community and the drama community.
Does Connor think that future people are going to be watching Brianna Wu as anything other than a cautionary tale?
I think that all things considered,
It's for everyone in the future. That's why this is going to go in a time capsule.
while they often do focus on very silly things, they do have a penchant for being honest and critical
Welcome to Greenest Fae. We're glad to have everyone here tonight.
and abrasive and annoying, which can be fun or funny when you don't like their targets. When you do like their targets, it can be frustrating and annoying and kind of abrasive.
We listened to this
So,
already.
is
We
that
actually get to, like,
personally scared of you? I'm not personally scared of the commentary community. So if you want to have a conversation, that's fine. And then Miss Brianna also jumped into the Twitter reply section and said that she is down for the conversation as well.
yeah, from
that has
behind the
brought
block
us to today.
Yeah.
I'm good.
No, I'm easy as well. Yeah. What's the setup here? Do you want to go for me bringing stuff up, or do you guys want to bring stuff up from the video? You said you've got notes, so I don't know if you want to start off there.
Connor?
Sure. I mean, if you want me to read the main takeaways that I had from it as a topic of discussion, then we can do that.
I mean,
we just go down through the list and we can just point out all the factual
Oh shit! Brianna's going to be on TV talking about me now.
errors,
Oh god damn it!
judgments, libelous, defamatory statements, and weak
you're laying it on thick there, Brianna.
reason. Why don't
Like, if she was actually the subject of libel and defamation, then she would, I don't know, sue somebody instead of sitting there threatening to throw a hitman at Sunday or something. Like, come on, you're laying it on a little thick there.
Sure.
Can't chainsaw tonight.
All right, so let's do the first one. So the first one that I took a note on was Brianna Wu claimed to have degrees, but only shows attending a university for a decade in her transcript with no final degree.
And look at this is so easy, right? If Brianna Wu has a degree, just produce the degree.
To be fair, you didn't actually pull the trigger. True. I was so afraid for my life. I thought Sunday was going to come to my house with a chainsaw.
So I did not. So let me ask you a question, Queeman.
Gamergate 3.0.
I just want all the listeners to know you won't show your face. So do you
Cow.
You won't show your face either. Take the filter off.
know who David Whitford is?
Is that some Nazi guy? Roughly.
No, it's not a Nazi guy. Do you know who this is?
No.
Yeah, I think he had some association with Milo, didn't he?
No. Do you know who David Whitford
No, I've got
is?
no.
David Whitford is a cultural historian in the intersection of religion and society during the European Reformations of the 16th century at Baylor University. Alternatively, he's an actor who played in Now and Forever. There's a lot of David Whitfords, apparently.
No idea who David Whitford
No
is. If I
idea
read the name while looking
whatsoever?
into you. Nope, not right
What
now.
does this,
Look it up.
Brianna? What does this have to do with you having a college degree? Get to it.
Nope.
Really? You have no idea who David Whitford is?
No, does this have any relevance to you having a degree?
Yeah, it does actually.
Okay, could you
So
explain the
if
relevance to you having a
She doesn't have a degree, by the way, guys. This is going to be a little bit important, and I'm going to show you why. So if I open this little folder, which I have dubbed,
Well, as green as to be. Well, you can become as green as you'd like to be by subscribing to Two Guys Talking History. Subscribe to Two Guys Talking History. It will make the greenest Fae green again. I'm not required to quantify my claims. No one else is.
the Brianna Wu files. You will see. She at various points in her dark and mysterious past referred to herself as having a full-on degree of some stripe. Quote, I've never taken a class in art, Illustrator, Maya, PS. I think we both know you've never taken a class in PS. ZBrush or anything that's kept me employed my whole life. My degree is in journalism and poli-sci. I also think that formal education is sort of a false god.
Okay, what the hell does that even mean?
To a certain extent. I'm not anti-education.
Evening, Stephanie.
I just don't think it's a singular path. She does not have a degree in journalism or poli-sci. She never graduated. She left without a degree. For the longest time, it was even written on her Wikipedia page that she had a degree, because she kept lying about it. We can look here. I also want to say, based on my undergrad degree and my knowledge of American copyright law, I'm quite sure it's infringement to just reuse the IGN logo and font without redrawing it significantly. Apparently you need a degree.
What? 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 That wouldn't require a degree, just a basic understanding of copyright law.
For that. And then we have an additional reference to a degree here. One thing I learned while getting my degree is that psychologically people often decide how they feel about and then arrange reality to fit the conception.
That is an interesting position. People psychologically decide how they feel about a thing and then arrange reality to fit the conception they wish to have. Yeah, I would be very curious to see in which class you learned about the arrangement of reality and how to turn reality into whatever you want it to be. I know you tried to do this, Brianna, but not successfully.
They wish to have. So, Brianna Wu has a long history of making things up about herself, and relatively early on, in about 2008, one of the things she made up about herself was that she had graduated with a degree, that she had some level of credential from a university. This is interesting because she also came out to defend Not So Erudite, if you'll recall, who also falsified her degrees and claimed she had a master's degree when in fact she had no such thing. She had an undergraduate degree. But I digress.
A degree.
Why don't you shut up? This is my show. I'm going to talk.
It's actually
I'm in charge.
my show too.
Oh, wow. Are we doing?
Actually, I'm on my stream as well. Actually, so
Oh my
I can actually talk pretty free.
Oh. Are we on your show too, little man?
We're just going
Let's not measure. Let's get into the information.
We'll do it.
This is why people like Brianna Wu shouldn't have a show, because she's like, I'm going to bring this person on, and then I'm not going to listen to what they have to say. So if you got a degree, you can spout utter bullshit and demand respect. Yes, as long as you get a degree in spouting bullshit. If you don't have a degree specifically in spouting bullshit, which I believe is a Bachelor of Science, you cannot get respect for spouting bullshit. Only if you have that specific degree.
So David Whitford is a person who is a really long-standing reporter.
I don't know why she keeps wanting to put herself on the screen. She doesn't have the stones for it. She's actually just like, she's a deeply weak and fragile personality. She has great difficulty actually keeping up in conversations that are serious, so she can't do those ones. And she can't keep composure to save her life in arguments, not even contentious arguments. She will lose her shit in arguments that are like just borderline just bantering or like just casual conversation. She can't.
This is a deeply insecure woman, and very incapable too. Like, she launched a video game that sucked. Let's shall we? Revolution 60. 53 reviews, mostly negative. Horrendous use of lens flare and washed out looks. Sorry, there's nothing to write home about. 0.7 hours. Kid not kin. I don't want to live anymore. That was what? May 27th. Oh, I'm sorry. Not even funny bad. It's just regular bad. The soundtrack is enjoyable at times. The truth of the matter is the vast majority, if not all of the tracks, are royalty-free and not created by the developers. I got the 3rd degree. Respect my authority. Yeah. Let's see. This is SteamDB, which collects back-end information off of Steam. Revolution 60 has 0 players right now, a 24-hour peak of 0, and its all-time peak 8 years ago was 12 players. This is not a successful person.
She can't handle disagreement. She has this picture, she has this juvenile picture of herself as being some like master orator, and then when there's any challenge to that, when reality pushes back on that even a little bit, she just crumbles.
You also notice that Brianna Wu never picks an arena that she doesn't have full control over. Like, this isn't a conversation between her and Queeman. This is a conversation between Connor, her, and Queeman, in which they have a Discord server that they can mute Queeman in. So she's not really interested in the exchange. She just wants Queeman to sit there and be a punching bag.
Like, it's just kind of sad.
And like it's infuriating behavior, right? Because she's nobody special. She's like literally nobody. She's a failed congressional candidate, a failed video game developer. And she's sitting here speaking as if she has some kind of authority. Like she talks endlessly about, oh, I was talking with the Biden campaign today. And like, what the fuck are you talking about, woman? At best, you were on a conference call, if you were on at all. Like, let's be frank. Like, the PAC that she is the executive director of is an embarrassment. Their most substantial contribution to a candidate was a primary in which the candidate was defeated. They've made like small $500 donations here and there. They don't make any substantive contributions to politics. It isn't a real political PAC in any meaningful sense. It's blown out of the water by most other PACs.
On a certain level, I kind of feel for her, because like this is a person who's been given every opportunity in life, and she's just screwed. She could have every resource in the world, and it wouldn't help her because she's just botched.
He worked at Inc. magazine for many years, and in the middle of Gamergate, he spent, my gosh, it must...
That's not even like come on, why would we bring up Gamergate? This is... Fuck, I'm gonna have to talk to Khaki on Blue, aren't I?
It had been 2 weeks following me around. This is an old school reporter, went through every single detail of my life.
I've literally got this article in my video. Sorry.
Well, I think, Stephanie, that's actually a really good point. Like, why cover this at all? Why talk about Brianna Wu at all? Because she consistently wants to throw non-binary people under the bus. She's a transmedicalist. Plenty of people have picked up and walked around lying for her after she was exposed, lying to the public about what she thinks about non-binary people. And then it happened again. This person is worth talking about because they don't know when to quit. They don't. They're horrible for the community they claim to represent. They don't know when to quit. They are actively harming people in that community. She needs to go away. Like, she needs to stop. Which is why this is worth talking about at all.
Just didn't know the name. Okay, I've got literally this article in my video.
Literally poured through every
I've got literally this article is in my video
for a feature in Inc. magazine.
Yeah, this is.
Lucy is a mistress or atrix. No, it's gender neutral now. It's like actor. They call them actors now, not actresses.
So if you are interested in a factual summary of everything that happened in my life, yeah, you probably shouldn't go to Kiwi Farms. You should
I didn't
go
use
to
I actually used Kiwi Farms once. I didn't use Kiwi Farms
all
once.
the stuff about that there. In this piece, it talks about
I know they muted me. I'm just talking for you guys.
Why did I not get a degree? It was because
Oh, is she muted here? That's a bookshelf tour. That's also what? Why are these here? Get off my screen. Okay, whatever. Anyways, wait. Why didn't I get a degree? Hang on. You can't say that, Brianna. You said you had a degree.
Yeah, this is in my video.
If you are interested in a factual summary of everything that happened in my life, yeah, you probably shouldn't go to Kiwi Farm.
If I'm interested in a factual summary of everything that happened to Brianna Wu's life, I'm probably not going to go to Brianna Wu either.
Farms.
I didn't actually use Kiwi Farms once. I didn't use Kiwi Farms.
Yeah, you'll notice how he's talking and then Brianna's not reacting to it, even though he's talking over it. It's because Brianna, you can see here actually just on the top of the screen. It says right here. Mic is muted right there. Brianna has a mute button. Brianna is actually muting Queeman. It's not Connor. Brianna's muting.
Farms
all the
once.
stuff about that there.
So Connor apparently isn't held at all, isn't hosting at all, is he? He's just there to be a beard, I guess?
In this piece, it talks about
I know they muted me. I'm just talking for you guys.
Why did I not get a degree? It was because
It's not about not getting it, it's about lying.
Left the university.
Why didn't I get a degree? But you can't say that, Brianna, because you said you did.
But yeah, she said she did have, like, and this is the weird thing. You'll see this happen again with the erudite stuff and the Brianna Wu stuff and the wig stuff, is they just lie. And then they said, well, it's not actually that bad of a lie because, like, it's kind of technically only a lie.
You said you did get a degree. Past tense, one thing I learned while getting my degree. I also want to say based on my undergrad degree. My degree is in journalism and poli-sci. You're stealing my credential there, Brianna.
Mississippi from.
Do you think Brianna Wu can name who John Locke is? Anybody? Let's put it to a poll, shall we?
Multiple years. I lived in Jackson, Mississippi. This is when I did my game studio.
I'll just talk for you guys. Okay.
That's why I bring this guy on to talk, just to meet him right off the bat. A weak and juvenile character of a person who failed to launch but had too much money not to fail to launch upward.
I need to find a word for coward that starts with W.
I was struggling with drug addiction and alcohol addiction for the.
I'm going to be honest. If you saw Brianna Wu's performance on Stardust a couple months ago, right after Wick did his little embarrassing prostitute dance, I think she was drunk that night. Sounded drunk.
Entire time.
Yeah,
So
she's the OG Keffels.
We'll just talk, guys. We can chat. Thanks for the $50 vodka. Huge thank you.
All of this goes together. Like, I've talked about every bit of this completely honestly and openly before. I actually don't have anything to hide. So
Just the.
If you don't have anything to hide, this is very simple. Produce the college degree you claim you have. You not have a college degree, then you have something to hide, Brianna.
Outright lie that you have a degree in journalism and poli-sci, which you just admitted. Right here, Brianna, was a lie.
I would really just suggest you go read that piece. It is the most accurate thing that's been written about that. And
Wait, what kind of debate gives one side a mute button? A debate run by cowards. That's it. Like if this was like just a call-in, and she was just...
Yeah, even when sober was incoherent. No, it's worse than being incoherent. He's deliberately incoherent.
Being a bitch, and she just wanted to mute him or whatever, that'd be one thing. That'd be gross. It would be Weasley and everything, but that would be like a one-sided thing.
Like, this is supposed... They invited him on, and then she's allowing... And Connor's doing nothing. Like, what a Weasley little shit you are, Connor. Like, where is all this spine that you claim to have as a Marine and a cop? Come on. Man the fuck up.
Supposed to be moderated. Why is one participant in the debate, in a moderated debate, able to mute the other side?
I'm sure,
and not informing them.
Sure, in that piece it talks about how I did not get my degree, something I've never claimed to have.
See, because here's the thing.
You've repeatedly claimed to have a degree, though, Brianna. We've seen it. Sunday brought the receipts.
They're streaming. When you look at the screen here, Brianna and Connor's audience is just seeing this window. They're not seeing all this. They're not seeing the mute sign down here. They're just seeing this.
That's a lie. You have claimed to have a degree.
No, I haven't.
You have.
Yes, you have, right here. Boom. Boom. My degree is in journalism and poli-sci, based on my undergrad degree. Where the fuck is it? Well, getting my degree. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. My hasty plasticine friend.
So numerous IGN posts on the username SpaceCatGal from way before you started appearing
he's on top of it.
like as in the Gamergate public with that name. So it wasn't someone faking being you. There's plenty of IGN posts where you claim to have a degree that are archived on the web archive, not just on Kiwi Farms. There's also an episode of a podcast.
He's muted again. He's muted again. Look at this. It took seconds. It doesn't matter, Brianna. It's too late. It's out there now. You said it.
Yeah, this is ridiculous. Like, Jesus, she's getting clobbered because she can't even listen to the other side.
It's over.
Also an episode of a podcast. Oh, so she's
so
moving.
going
Okay.
one at a time. I would need to see that. You know, in my public role for me,
Good moderating job, Connor. Great job.
Brianna Wu, the person who came to be relevant, like in the public eye after Gamergate, I've been completely...
She's muting him. You saw that, right? She's muting him. He said, okay, and then he stopped. That wasn't Connor. Connor didn't step in and say, hang on, Brianna, then Queeman. She just interjected, and then the mute button came on.
completely honest with this. Now, there was...
It's such a weird and pointless lie. It is weird. Like, it's obvious. I've never seen someone just, like, lie about, like, literal textual documentation. We have it literally.
Yeah, this is like, I think B-Boy Cypher, you probably can't see his thing on here because my giant picture's in the way. But he's like, why, this is weird, why not acknowledge you at some point, more insecure about this, why not grow? Like, there's an opportunity to work these things, right? That if you're not an idiot, you can do. Like, I was in school for a degree, blah, 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 blah. I wasn't able to finish it, blah, 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 blah. Easy peasy.
Really right here. It's all clear.
Plenty of people don't have college degrees. Plenty of people speak authoritatively on topics because they become passionate about them and learn about them without receiving the necessary training. But it's what we're telling people all the time as historians is it's that the degree doesn't make you a historian. You follow the process and you understand the mechanics of what you're doing.
Here, black and white. You stole fizzy lifting drinks, Brianna.
One article, to my knowledge, that came out, and I said I went to the University of Mississippi. To the reporter, they interpreted that to mean that I graduated. I did not. They misquoted me at the time.
My degree is in journalism and poli-sci. No, they quoted you directly. You just lied.
And something I think you'll find...
It's crazy, isn't it? Just that the media keeps lying. Brianna, she's trying her hardest. Like, guys, no, look, listen, I don't have a degree. I'm a degree. Wait, no, stop. Exactly, she misquoted herself.
Not every...
Yeah, there's the woke media for you. They will not allow a trans person to not have a degree.
I was taken out of context by me.
This will not stand.
Has the same level of fact-checking that, say, the New York Times does, or Inc. Magazine has, or the Wall Street Journal has. So if you go through that...
You did not just include Inc. Magazine as in the same sentence as the two papers of record for the United States of America. The Washington Post and the New York Times are supposed to be, and the New York Times has fallen off rather substantially. It's supposed to be the papers of record. Like, you can cite these in an academic paper. You cannot cite Inc. Magazine in the same way with the same authority. No, stop right there. You have violated the law, citizen.
You'll see a very consistent statement.
Well, if we...
sorry, one second. Sorry,
through...
one second, Connor. You just lied to me again, because I actually, in August of 2014, you were actually claiming on our podcast that you went back to university and finished your degree and became an investigative journalist. You actually...
Damn! Cream is on top of it.
I didn't know about that. That's a hell of a thing. If you certain little Jewish boys in the audience by chance, if you could send that to me, I would be most interested.
Did say that. After Gamergate started, you did claim that. You misspoke. Okay.
You misspoke about finishing your degree? Oh,
how do you do that? Hey, I went back to school and got my degree. That's a substantial, like, misspeaking is like saying 3 instead of 2 in a phone number, not a whole fucking sentence. Like a whole sentence, and the thought behind it is not misspeak. What the fuck?
Oh, I just forgot. I
Like, if you tried to pull this shit in front of me, I would make you sit in the corner with a dunce cap on until you decided to be honest again. Like, what the hell?
Wait, what was I doing in that year? I was like, oh, I must have been finishing my degree. Oh, wait, my mistake. I'm sorry. I was actually baking cookies. I just plumb forgot about it.
For the sake of, let's say that Brianna has this source that says, nope, I didn't say it, I phrased it this way. Queenman says, nope, you did phrase it this way.
We have multiple places where she has reiterated that she has a degree. I'm sorry. Even Brianna's not that dumb. Where'd she go?
What is your educational background to be stated clearly now?
Sure. I went to a ton of college, and I didn't succeed for getting a degree for many reasons.
Partially because you're not good at anything. That's one. So,
well, it is difficult to succeed at college when you're a raging alcoholic, to be fair. College is work. It ultimately is what it is you put in the work, you check off the boxes, you get the degree. And along the way, the theory is, as long as you check off the boxes properly, you should learn how to do a thing that makes you smarter than you were when you got there. That's all it is. Not.
Second is because you didn't do any work. Third, actually, God only knows. I don't know what you're doing with your time, Brianna. Like, it's kind of embarrassing. Like, you say your parents gave you $200,000 to produce a cartoon. No cartoon exists. You were given how much?
There is posts on Twitter under Sunday talking rather extensively about Brianna's time at University of Mississippi and the students. Well, actually, it's more talking about the students' reaction to her. Apparently, she managed to get entire forum posts dedicated to her, which is pretty damn unique, I'll say. Like, most people go to a large university like that and manage to keep their goddamn heads down, but not Brianna. I'm not going to share those for a variety of reasons, because they very extensively feature her dead name, and that would be inappropriate. However, they're there if you want to go look through them.
How much money to like politically organized? Literally nothing has come of this. You made a video game, the shittiest video game on earth. All of the people who used to work with you, as far as I can recall, say that you were basically useless. You basically stole their work. You paid for them to show up and do everything, and then blamed other people when stuff didn't come to fruition. And the end result was absolute garbage. It was one of the worst products ever seen. It has a overwhelmingly negative score on Steam, I believe. Actually, let me
and 12 peak users.
double check that very quickly. So if I go on here, thank God. Let's see. So Revolution 60. Mostly negative. Not overwhelmingly negative, mostly negative. It could be worse.
It could be. All right. This has been a long thing for me. It's getting late. I'm going to thank everybody for coming out again tonight. We're going to pick this up probably tomorrow. Lay us off, keyboard cat. This sounds painful.
dance, 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 dance like a monkey. Move, 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 move like a monkey. Shoot, 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 shoot like a monkey. Kill, 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 kill like a monkey. Dance, 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 dance like a monkey. Move, 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 move like a monkey. Shoot, 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 shoot like a monkey. Kill, 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 kill like a monkey.